3.
We made it 2 hours and 15 minutes before we had a technical glitch, and sorry about that, Craig. It just we couldn't hear you. But I'll tell you what's happened in the interim is there have been quite a few comments on the chat room about your blue eyes. You've got some
Wow. Well, thank you, chat, for that. I had nothing to do with it, but I'm glad to have them. They're nice to have, I guess. So yes, thank you very much. And yeah, I guess Mike kind of wrapped it up there. He mentioned, all the LSU connections on the Baylor roster. I mean, Jeff Grimes was an assistant there, and Dave Aranda, obviously, and Juice Johnson, and so on. And I was kind of basically asking him sort of that, but a bigger picture on Aranda, just showing his medal in year number 2. But we'll talk to Mike plenty of more times, and he kind of touched on it anyway. So all good. I'm here now, and hopefully no more issues until 6 o'clock.
Yeah, those. Look, the LSU connections. Look, it's no coincidence that you get all those national championship caliber guys and you start winning pretty quick. Guys who know how to do it.
Yeah, you get guys who have been there, done that. They know what it takes, and certainly Aranda has been there, done that, and so have a lot of the others. But they're in really good hands, man. That's bottom line. There's not really an argument there, and very excited to see what kind of moves they're going to make this offseason. I mean, obviously last offseason it was like one day in, and Charlie Brewer was transferring, and then all sorts of just coaching hirings and firings, and they're going to have to remake the staff a little bit and retool the roster a little bit, but I think they're in really great hands. There's no question.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, John Machota, The Athletic, joins us now. And, John, thanks for hopping on a little bit early. We're actually running a little bit ahead for the first time in I don't know how long. But, John, how do you see this game this weekend? The Cowboys and Eagles really has no implications on it outside of some kind of wild things. Plus, they're playing on Saturday, so they have no idea. Do you see them, even though they say they're going to play everybody, resting some people?
I do. That's the thing. They've been careful with the way they've worded it, whether it be Jerry Jones or Mike McCarthy. It's I think the most common way it's been said is play to win the game. So you can still do that by having certain players not play. Like I mean, you can start the game with your first team offense and maybe play a few series with them, but it just doesn't make a lot of sense to have Ezekiel Elliott in there in the fourth quarter of this game. And let's be honest, even if the Eagles needed this game to make the playoffs, I don't think it would be that much different for the Cowboys. The thing is, though, is that the Eagles are dealing with even more COVID cases than the Cowboys are, and they don't have really any chance of improving. So I don't see them playing. So you're going to have basically a lot of Gardner Minshew in there. I don't see Jalen Hurts going there and taking a bunch of hits for a game that really doesn't mean a ton. So me personally, I would be surprised if Dak Prescott and the starters are playing in the second half. I think that they'll probably play him maybe a quarter, maybe depending on what the offense looks like. Try and get them in a good rhythm, and kind of put a positive finish to the regular season as opposed to finishing on what they did against the Cardinals. But I would be really surprised if Dak and Amari and the first team whole line is still out there in the fourth quarter. It wouldn't make any sense to me.
John, what were your thoughts just on that Cardinals game in general? I mean, obviously got down, but fought back, had an opportunity there late, but come up just short. What were your thoughts just overall on the showing against Arizona?
I mean, it certainly was disappointing because of, again, like, I factor in, like, who's out in the field. And that's usually where everything starts for me because, especially these last 2 years because of COVID, it's just changed so much from week to week on what a team looks like. If that was the Cardinals team that had a healthy J.J. Watt and a healthy DeAndre Hopkins and even several other players, Marcus Golden, I mean, that'd be a little bit different, Jordan Phillips. But to be that team that they had out there that really hasn't been playing well, lost in Detroit, and then to sit there and play that way. And the Cowboys just never looked like, I don't know if the right word is the aggressor, but they didn't look like the better team, which they clearly were. They're playing at home. They're as healthy as they've been all season. I just expected to see a much better product than that. And then one particular thing that bothered me was when the offense was sputtering for the first three quarters, why did they wait until the fourth quarter to pull out that Cedric Wilson pass play to Tony Pollard? And I'm not even meaning just that particular play, but why not try some of that stuff when it's very clear series after series, you're not getting a ton of traction. You're just running the ball. into the gut of the offensive line and you're getting 1 yard. Why not try and spark things with that? Because that play certainly sparked stuff, but it was a little too much, a little too late. I know that those type of plays are in Kellen Moore's bag. It makes me wonder, are those being saved for the playoffs? But it worked out so well that it left me kind of scratching my head like, why aren't we seeing more of that stuff when the offense is sputtering? Because it seemed like that kind of got them going. It was just too much too late.
John, the other thing was the Cowboys had an unbelievable knack for penalties that negated their best plays in killing into momentum. I mean, Zeke Elliott had the best run he had in 8 weeks, and then it got called back because of holding. And they just have had that problem all year long with holding and whatnot and penalties. Is this something you see that's going to just creep on and stay with them? Because it's not like you can get rid of it now.
You know, that's a great question because that was such a huge part of that game. And obviously, if you're a Cowboys fan, you watch that game, it reminds you a lot of Thanksgiving, just with how closely things were called, not only on the offensive line, which to me are the bigger worry than the defense, because I really am fine with them playing an aggressive style of defense. And if you're going to get some pass interferences here and there, you're going to get them. But I like the aggressive style of defense. It's the offensive holdings, the false starts, things like that from the offensive line that just shouldn't be happening. But as a whole, the thing that probably surprised me the most was just after the game, how much the players talked about the officials. It wasn't just one or two, it was all of them. And when they kept talking about the officials, I was kind of like, this could be an issue in a playoff game where all of a sudden they think it's, woe is me, here the officials are trying to screw us over again, and it gets into their psyche. And that can obviously be a very bad thing because the Cowboys players feel like the refs are out to get them. And that's not a good thing to be having on your mind when you're trying to win playoff games. Because let's be honest, there's not going to be any blowouts. Every team you're going to be playing is going to be good, and just having that in the back of your mind can be the difference between you winning a game and you going home early.
John, your thoughts on Michael Gallup and the very tough year that he's obviously been through. Off and on, and now definitely off for the foreseeable future after that injury and the torn ACL. What do you think the future holds for Michael Gallup, and just how would you summarize just the way the last few months has gone for that young man?
Yeah, it sucks, man, because he's probably one of the best guys in that locker room, and you feel for him. In terms of what that injury will do for his career, I don't think it's going to have much of like holding him back at all. I think he'll come back from that, and he'll get back to being the player he was before. Obviously, it's going to take him a while to rehab, but I think just his work ethic, the type player he is, I think he'll come back from that. Now, that might be with the Cowboys, depending on is it going to be entering free agency? Depending on where he is in the rehab process and things like that will probably factor into what his market is. And maybe, depending on what the rehab's like, maybe the market for him is at a spot that he doesn't love and he wants to go one more year with the Cowboys and take a team-friendly deal to, basically go to the following year's free agency. I don't know yet, but I know that when everything's clicking and this offense is hitting on all cylinders, Michael Gallup is a 1,000-yard receiver. Now, we didn't get a chance to see it this year because the offense never clicked. To be honest with you, the offense has probably clicked its best when Michael Gallup wasn't there. When they went on that 6-1 start to start the season when he was out with the calf injury, it's almost like in a way, and it sounds ridiculous to even say this, it's almost like they have like too many weapons on offense that that it's kind of bogging them down because they're trying to spread the ball around as opposed to feed it to 2 or 3 different guys. But it is bizarre. If you would have told me that they would have had Michael Gallup come back for these last few games and he was going to be healthy and Amari was going to be healthy and CD was going to be, I just would be like, this offense is going to be hitting on all cylinders at the right time. And even with him back and him healthy, it just wasn't like that. And it's crazy that he hurt on that in that play and was able to even make that play after, feeling it. He said after that he felt his knee pop while he was making that catch, and for him to hold on and score the touchdown is it's just crazy. But yeah, like I said, you feel for him because he's just a good dude, and you want to see guys like him have success. So while I think there's a chance that you could end up being with the Cowboys again next year because of this injury, I also think there's a really good chance that he ends up getting a pretty good deal from another team because I don't know if this is an injury that's going to keep teams from still bidding on him because of what his upside is.
John, what do you think the best matchup is for the Cowboys in the that first week of the postseason?
You guys might not agree with this, but I really do think it's the Cardinals, and that just because you just played them Walking to the locker room after the game, I passed by the Cardinals coming off the field, and DeAndre Hopkins is still on crutches. And so I just find it hard to believe that he's going to be able to turn it around and be available for that game. I think I heard a report about a month ago that their hope is that maybe they can have him back for like the NFC Championship game if they reach that far. But it sounds like there's a good chance that it'll be most of the same guys that will be playing them again. And I like the chances in a rematch like that, only 2 weeks apart. Yeah, they'll probably have Marcus Golden back. They'll be in a little bit better position, but playing them in Dallas, I think that's their best bet there, because while I do think that this defensive front can tee off against a pocket passer like a Matthew Stafford, just the idea of like Aaron Donald wrecking a game, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey, Odell Beckham going off and having, like some crazy 180-yard game with like 2 or 3 touch. There's just a lot of things about the Rams I would be trying to avoid. And then, of course, then the other one would be, I think you do anything you possibly can to avoid Tom Brady and the defending Super Bowl champ. So of the options that are out there that are realistic, I do think it's the Cardinals.
John, Dak Prescott's had a good year, but I mean, there's obviously been plenty of times with, criticisms for this or for that. How would you kind of summarize Dak's year versus, maybe what you expected or what have you? I mean, I get why there's some reason for criticism, but, there's also been good. I mean, how do you kind of view it?
I think it's been a good year if you just look at it as a whole. But, going into the season, coming off of training camp, you didn't know for sure how he was going to be because of that ankle injury. I mean, heck, he was coming out of training camp with the shoulder injury. So you were kind of maybe tempering your expectations a little bit. And then he went out there and played the way he did week 1 at Tampa. And you were like, oh, damn, okay. Then this could be an MVP type year for this guy. And it really kept going that direction up until probably that last play, which was a great play. It's just so weird thinking about this now, because on that last play of the Patriots game, he gets hurt on that play. And it's just like, it's kind of like Michael Gallup is able to make this touchdown. He gets hurt on that play. It's bizarre how that all worked out. But since them beating New England, he misses the game against the Vikings. And since he's come back, there's really only 2 games where you saw that same Dak. And that was, I would say, against the Falcons and then, a couple weeks ago against Washington. But for the most part, it's just been a guy that he's struggling to find a rhythm. And I don't put all the blame on him, because I really do think that you could fix it real quick if you get that running game going again. I just think that's easier said than done. That's why they're going out of their way, bringing in these packages with 7 offensive linemen, because they know how important it is. They have to establish some kind of run to make these teams pay for putting these 2 deep safeties and playing the coverages that they are. And it's crazy to think with the way this Cowboys team has been constructed over the last 5-6 years, that this team would have a hard time running the football against even man boxes. Is just crazy. I just would never believe it. But that also was factored into his season too. So yeah, I don't think he's had a bad year at all. I think it's been good, but we were shown early in the year that it had a chance to be great. It had a chance to be his best year. It had a chance to be an MVP type year. And where it's at now, it's certainly not close to that.
John, what did you make of the Pro Football Focus stuff about Trayvon Diggs, about how he's in spite of the 11 interceptions, he's the worst cornerback in the league?
The thing I make of that is I just think it's funny because their social media account, obviously they're trying to promote their content, but they're always tweeting about Trayvon. They're always tweeting pictures out about 11 interceptions, all that stuff. But then in all their coverage, they're always dinging him for, all the yards he's given up and all that stuff like that. I'm just kind of like, why are you using him to promote all your stuff then if he's just so bad? I don't know, it leaves me scratching my head. For me personally, yeah, does he give up big plays? Absolutely. He gives up too many yards. There's just no question about that. He's got to get better at that. My issue with the Pro Football Focus thing is that I don't know how their grading is. I just don't think they're giving enough of a grade for an interception. I think that whatever their mathematical, whatever they give for an interception, I just don't think is enough, because this guy has 11 interceptions and it hasn't been done in 40 years. I don't know, if you're quantifying that as every interception you get a 7.2, well, that number should probably bump to probably about a 21.5. It covers up for a lot of other things. And especially with this team, when Trayvon Diggs gets interceptions, what it does for the offense, what it does for the rest of the team, this team feeds off of takeaways. And so, yeah, you can rank him down there, but it's just funny because if you did a redraft across the entire NFL and you only made it with corners available, like there's not 5 going ahead of him. So, I mean, you can rank them however you want with your statistics and that, but like when it comes down to playing ball and having the guy on your team, like there's just not going to be that many guys that you're going to take over Trayvon Diggs. So at the end of the day, that's kind of what matters. I just think it's funny that he's come along literally right after we got to watch, 4 or 5 years of Byron Jones, who Byron Jones is a PFF, love story. Doesn't take the ball away, but he's in great position and the passer rating against is real low, and he doesn't give up big plays, but he also doesn't make the big game-changing plays. So for me personally, if I'm running a team, I'd rather have the Trayvon Diggs, but I think if PFF's running a team, they would rather have Byron Jones.
Pick any 2 seasons that you've covered the Cowboys, and you, a person who COVID notwithstanding, saw almost every game in person, you did not see 11 interceptions in a year a couple times.
No,
a whole year.
No.
From multiple people, everybody, the whole team, not just one guy. So I think the Pro Football Focus people need to take that in consideration too.
Yeah, there's no question. I mean, and this is not to act like you can have issues with his game. I mean, you could talk about momentum plays. I mean, one of the big momentum plays of that Cardinals game is where he bit on that double move by AJ Green on their opening series, and it set them up, in the red zone. I mean, that's a play that like he can't bite on that, and he is aggressive in that nature because he is looking for that game-changing pick and things like that. So yeah, there's certainly things that he needs to clean up in his game, and because of that, if you don't want to rank him as like, I don't know, like a top 3 or 4 corner or something like that, that's fine. I mean, I probably could even listen if you want to say he's not in the top 10 or 15. I mean, maybe even the top 20 finals. When you're telling me he's like in 70th and 125th and stuff, I'm just like, stop with this nonsense. Like, give me a break. Like, who's taking 100 corners over Trayvon Diggs? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, no one is. Jon Machota, theathletic.com. John, Happy New Year. Great to talk to you, and enjoy Philly this week. You going to Philly this weekend? Yes,
sir.
All right, get yourself a cheesesteak. Enjoy it. We'll talk to you next week. That's Jon Machota of theathletic.com. Craig, I need to send you this. I don't think